So the Spider-Man 2 writers have come out and officially confirmed that Miles Morales is now the main Spider-Man in the Insomniac universe. This has, of course, reignited the age-old debate of who can and cannot be Spider-Man. This has been a topic that I've avoided for some time because, frankly, people take it way too seriously. And a lot of people get very easily defensive depending on which side of the aisle you're sitting on. But the truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that this conversation has been turned into a culture war topic, when in fact what it actually comes down to is a generational gap and a fundamental misunderstanding of the character of Spider-Man. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I don't talk about video games a lot on this channel for obvious reasons, because this is intended to be a space for film discussion. But one very important element to film is storytelling. And truth be told, there are some video games who have better storytelling than most Hollywood movies.
It's true.
Certain video games have stuck with me over the years from a storytelling perspective, and one of those games is the first Insomniac Spider-Man game. A game that I once called a work of art, and is easily one of my fondest video game experiences. To me, it not only perfectly captured the essence of the Spider-Man character and his world, but it also put players in a unique position where you genuinely felt like you were Spider-Man, as you swung through New York City and fought memorable villains in the most visually impressive way. Part of the appeal of that first game had a lot to do with the very recognizable personality of the main character, that being Peter Parker. I make no apologies when I say the only two parts of that game that I genuinely had very little interest in are the parts where you're forced to play as Mary Jane and Miles Morales.
How can you not care?
Like this.
And that's not because I hate those characters, it's because when I sign up to play a Spider-Man game, I want to play as Spider-Man for the entire duration. I don't need you to shoehorn side missions into a game featuring other characters just so you can say you switched up the gameplay a little bit. Because the gameplay as Peter Parker or Spider-Man is why I purchased the game in the first place.
I'd buy that for $1.
That would be like Rocksteady making me play as Alfred halfway through Arkham Asylum. It's just not desirable to me, and it's not necessary. But again, it doesn't mean that I hate the character of Alfred, it just means that that character has its place, and its place is not at the forefront of my Batman game. Now, I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, but I'd be lying to you if I said part of my hesitation didn't have to do with an increased role in that game for Miles Morales. Now, I've actually heard people say that he should have been involved more in the game, but I don't have context since I haven't played it. But what I do know is that Miles Morales as a character just doesn't interest me as much as Peter Parker does.
That's racist.
And just to prove to you that I can still be objective, even feeling that way, I gave the recent Miles Morales Spider-Verse movie a decent review by my standards, even though I have no interest in the character to begin with. And what that says to me is that this character does have potential, but I don't necessarily agree with how he's being presented to us. To me, the biggest issue with Miles Morales is that he has no real identity of his own.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
He's presented to us mostly as a secondary Spider-Man, so that's how I view him. If he was just another Spider-Man floating around in the multiverse doing his own thing, like Spider-Man 2099 or Ben Reilly, no one would bat an eye because those variants have existed for some time now without protest. I think the issue arises when they try to make Miles the main universe Spider-Man. In other words, whoever is in charge creatively tries to push him as Peter Parker's replacement. And to me, the character just hasn't been around long enough, or accomplished enough, or formed his own distinct identity to warrant him being Peter Parker's replacement. I'm gonna be honest with you, even if Miles Morales was a little bit more fleshed out and had existed for longer, I still don't think many people would accept him as the main universe Spider-Man.
No, don't like that.
Because when people think of Spider-Man, they think of Peter Parker by and large, and there's nothing wrong with that. Here's a question: how many times in the comics has other people worn the Batsuit? We've had Dick Grayson, we've had Azrael, the list goes on and on. And as much as I love those characters, the reality is it's hard to accept them in that role because to me, Bruce Wayne will always be Batman and no one else. Sure, it might be interesting for a one-off story to have someone else don the suit, but eventually fans are going to ask, where's Bruce Wayne? Just like they're going to ask, where's Peter Parker? Because that's what they know. And those characters cannot be easily pushed to the side and replaced because they've existed for too long and are far too well known and beloved.
That makes sense.
Now, I will say, to Marvel's credit, they've at least done a decent job of having Miles Morales and Peter Parker coexist with each other at the same time. But when it comes to Miles being in a solo role, I believe he needs his own persona. Otherwise, he will never grow, you will be doing a disservice to the character, and he will always be in Peter Parker's shadow. By all accounts, creatives are setting Miles up for failure by trying to make him the Spider-Man.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
I always see that famous Stan Lee quote brought up in this discussion, because once upon a time, Stan Lee noted in an interview with Larry King that part of the beauty of Spider-Man's costume is the fact that beneath the suit, he could be anyone. Now, I've seen that quote weaponized and misinterpreted by a lot of people over the years, but here's what it means to me. How I interpret that quote is that when Stan says anyone can be Spider-Man, he's referring to the reader or the fan. It is kind of cool that because Spider-Man is completely covered up, the reader could subconsciously see themselves in that suit and doing what Spider-Man does. Now, I personally don't care what a character looks like. Their appearance has no real bearing on whether or not I find them relatable, but I do understand Stan Lee's intention here. To me, it was a very smart move, and it could have a lot to do with why this character, to this day, is still one of the most popular. What people seem to be misinterpreting about that quote is they're taking it and saying, well, anyone can be Spider-Man in universe, which to me removes the importance and responsibility of Peter Parker's situation. It makes the character of Peter Parker, and by extension Spider-Man, seem less important. And that should never be the case. He is the crown jewel of Marvel, and he should be treated as such. It's kind of arrogant and disrespectful to suggest that you could swap out Peter for someone else and get the same results. People like this character for a reason, and that has a lot to do with Peter's struggle, his journey, and his personality. Things about the character that cannot be replicated.
Don't bother.
I understand why younger generations gravitate towards Miles because he is designed to be more modern. But to me, that's only looking at things on a surface level. The truth is that characters like Peter Parker are timeless, and that's been proven by his longevity. No one is saying that Miles Morales as a character should not exist. What a lot of people are saying is that his presentation feels lazy and unearned. Maybe he would be better served having a completely different superhero name. Having him be simply a replacement makes people think he's nothing more than a replacement, and that's why he won't ever be universally loved and accepted in the way that Peter is.
Whoopie f***ing do. Hey, I'm impressed.
When it comes right down to it, I think it's a mistake for Insomniac to make this change. It feels very reactionary and like they're just doing it because it's the modern thing to do. I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, but I'll leave this up to the people who have. Is Peter Parker's story finished? Has Miles' story in the game been established enough to warrant him being the future focal point? I guess only time will tell, but this could very well not go the way that Insomniac is expecting. And that's unfortunate considering the strong legacy they were building for their version of Spider-Man.
Y'all be cool. Right on.